sir. First question is, what is PTA and PPA?
Do you want the answer in Nepali or English?
यसमा इङ्ग्लिसमै यो गरेर गरौँ भन्ने कुरा भएको छ.
No problem.
No problem. Okay. बुझ्नुभयो? Thank you. First question is, what is PTA and PPA?
Full form of PTA is Power Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Which is signed between two countries, and in this instance, Nepal and India.
Yes.
Under which each country can export power to another country and similarly also import from the other country. Whereas PPA is Power Purchase Agreement,
yes,
which is signed between the utility like Nepal Electricity Authority and hydropower developers, like number of companies that there exist.
Yes. Second question for the questions. Next, what can be the pros and cons of PTA?
From the positive perspective, PTA is meant to trade power between two countries to export and import from each other country. So a country which is facing shortage of power can import power from other country. For example, if Nepal is having power crisis, it can import power from India. Similarly, if Nepal has excess power, Nepal can export to India. So that is the positive aspect. But the negative aspect of it is the fact that both Nepal and India do not have excess power. Nepal is facing power crisis, so is India.
Yes.
So therefore, there is no sense in signing power trade agreement when both of the signatory countries do not have excess power.
How can we overcome those cons?
Well, to overcome the negative aspects, both India and Nepal will have to produce more power. But the thing that must not be lost sight of is the fact that Nepal now has installed capacity of 787 megawatt, from which less than 400 megawatt is produced, and peak demand last November was 1200 megawatt. So there is a big gap. Similarly, India is also going through severe power crisis. So therefore, the solution is, first of all, each of the country needs to become independent, self-sufficient in power before thinking of exporting power to other country. India is like last month, when Akhilesh Yadav was giving a press conference, power suddenly went up for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
There are places in Uttar Pradesh where they receive power for few hours every 20 days. So they are not in a position to export power to Nepal. Similarly, Nepal also is facing load shedding problems, so Nepal is also not in a position to export power. And what must not be also forgotten is the fact that NEA says the peak demand was 1200 megawatt last November, last year.
Yeah.
Actually, by my reckoning, Nepal's need last year was 6000 megawatt.
Yeah.
This 1200 megawatt is just for the 45% of the people who have access to electricity. There are 55% of the people who don't have access to electricity. So in order to provide access to electricity to them also, in total Nepal will need 2700 megawatt. Similarly, there are industries who are suffering for lack of power. And many industries are not being able to establish for lack of power again. So therefore another 1000 megawatt will be needed for them. Similarly, to displace cooking gas, we need about 1200 megawatt. Similarly, Mataka Yadav comes from Tarai, and you all must know that in Tarai they use diesel pump to pump water for irrigation. And one of the consultants have estimated that 700 megawatt will be needed for that purpose only. So in this manner, even today, if there was power available, Nepal could have used 6000 megawatt. So in this backdrop, when we don't even have 1,000 megawatt, thinking of planning of exporting power doesn't make sense at all.
But if you allow other 10 more projects like GMR and allowing us at least 15% of their production for consumption for free.
Okay, so there are projects like GMR, 10 projects like GMR, and that will total 9,000 megawatt. 10% of 9,000 megawatt is 900 megawatt. But our need right now is, the shortfall in my assessment is 5,300 megawatt. So what is the point of, I am not against GMR, I am not against India. What I am saying is, the power first and foremost should be made available for development of Nepal. You just came by motorcycle and you know the problem petrol for your motorcycle. And the dependency of Nepal on petroleum products. The trade and payment deficit each year is about 140 billion rupees on account of petroleum products. So Nepal should think of electrification of the transportation. And for that purpose we need another 500 megawatt. So in this manner, electricity is something which cannot be stored. It should be consumed, used as well as produced. So if there is no market for it in Nepal, it should be exported. No problem with that. So what I said is, I don't have problem with GMR. I don't have problem with India. I don't have problem with exporting power also. But when Nepal is starved for power in the range of 6,000 megawatt, there is no point in exporting power. But once Nepal's demand is met at the saturation level, then everybody welcome to export it. And actually power should be exported because it cannot be saved. It can, storing is possible but very costly because of the battery cost. So in the normal course it cannot be stored. Therefore power has to be exported, but only after meeting the demand of Nepal at saturation level.
Now, if we cannot produce on our own, it's good to hand over to other nation? Yes or no? With reason.
No, there is no yes or no to that question. First of all, there are many people in this country, the political leaders, the so-called highly educated ministers, who go about saying that Nepal cannot produce power. That is not true. People say that we don't have enough funding to generate power. That is also not true. Just take the example of remittance, which is about 600 billion per year. So 10% of that is 60 billion. With 60 billion, you can produce 600 megawatt. And if you leverage that with 2/3 debt and 1/3 equity, then you can produce 1800 megawatt from 1 year's 10% remittance. So in 10 years, you can produce 18,000 megawatt. So there is no question of Nepal not being able to produce power on her own. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, there is no problem giving it to others. Again, I have said that I don't have problem with GMR. If GMR builds it to meet Nepal's need, I don't have problem. But in the instance of Upper Karnal, which is being developed by GMR, there is another different issue. The Upper Karnal site is, the full capacity of that site is 4,180 megawatt. But they are going to develop it as just 900 megawatt. So I have serious disagreement with that because they are trying to kill the potential of that site. So, and the additional problem with GMR is, if it was built as 4,180 megawatt to full potential, then it would have been a reservoir, and which would have provided water for drinking and sanitation, water for irrigation and food security, and electricity 4 times more, that too of higher quality, and then that would have provided navigation, waterborne transportation. So by this single mistake on the part of the government of Nepal in allowing GMR to develop that as a just 900 megawatt Renam River project, the site's full potential has been killed.
Is this PTA just a political debate and opposite party make it an issue or it's really that much disastrous?
In fact, I feel like smiling because no opposition parties have objected to PTA. None. None of them have objected to PTA. Of course, Janardhan Sharma Janardhan Sharma objected to GMR and in Upper Karnali, and Ram Karki, part objected to Arun Third. But none of the parties objected to PTA, which doesn't make sense. If you want to do business in milk, you have to have cows and buffaloes, she buffaloes. Then you will have plenty of milk. After drinking yourself, you can sell it. But if you don't have cows and she buffaloes, but you have bulls and he buffaloes, you cannot trade in milk. So both Nepal and India have lots of he buffaloes and bulls, but they think of trading in electricity. Doesn't make sense.
Next question. Can we buy electricity as much as we require from the GMR as per PT?
Yeah, that is one additional myth that has been being circulated, and that has been circulated by people in high level of bureaucracy. One person is former Finance Secretary Rameswar Khanal. I have been his mentor, and he has said that if we need, we can buy necessary power from GMR. That demonstrates his lack of knowledge of high finance. This is a little difficult to explain, but I will try my best. GMR has said that they will need 160 billion to build that project. And they don't have that money. They will have to borrow part of that. Maybe, 140 billion by then, 140 billion. So they will have to say they will put up 35 billion, 25%, and they will borrow 105 billion. So, while borrowing that money, the lenders, they will demand guarantee in the form of power purchase agreement. If a power purchase agreement is not signed, they will not lend the money. Once power purchase agreement has been signed, then Nepal eventually cannot go and say, hey, now I want this much power. Will not be possible, because after power purchase agreement is signed with a power company in India, like PTC India, then the loan agreement will sign. After the loan agreement is signed, the project is built, and after the project commission, they will not be able in a position to sell even 1 unit of electricity to anybody. So that itself is shows that those people do not know what they are talking of. This is not something that you bring all the money and you build your house. GMR doesn't have 140 billion rupees with them. They will have to borrow it. To borrow it, they will have to sign loan agreement. To sign loan, before signing loan agreement, they will have to sign power purchase agreement with PTC India. Once that is done, once that is locked, then PTC India will not allow GMR to sell even a single unit of power to anybody else. Forget even Nepal.
If Nepal still has electricity storage in the future and the GMR is exporting electricity, is justifiable?
That question is not clear.
If Nepal still has electricity storage in the future and GMR is exporting electricity?
Nepal, I have explained that electricity is something which cannot be stored at all.
Yeah.
So there is no point of GMR selling it. But the whole thing is, with GMR now intends to export power to India. So there is no question of storing by GMR also. No point.
What GMR is going to do if people oppose the project by some reason at middle of the construction?
First of all, what I would like to say is, in the case of Arun III, the then government, with this very finance minister, wanted to build it. We were against that project also. So that was going to be financed by World Bank. So this government talked to the World Bank and tried to persuade World Bank to finance it. But we talked to World Bank, and we succeeded to explain to World Bank that this is not in the interest of Nepal, so they cancelled it. Similarly,